Hello, this is Chair Ruth Richardson. Pursuant to House Rule 10.01, I call this remote meeting of the Education Policy Committee to order. Ellen, can you verify that a quorum is present for the meeting?
Yes, a quorum is present.
Thank you. Welcome members and welcome staff to our first Ed Policy meeting of the year. We wanted to take a little bit of time today to allow the members and staff to introduce themselves. And I'll just make a note for the record as well that committee rules will be forthcoming. So we will be talking about those at a future meeting. And just wanted to open up today's meeting with starting with members, asking everyone to introduce themselves, identify the areas that they represent, and as a way to get to know everyone a little better, talk a little bit about who their favorite teacher was and why. So I will call on folks in the order that I am seeing them show up on my my screen here. And first I see Representative Peggy Bennett.
All right, thank you. Boy, my favorite teacher. You know, it's funny because in elementary school and junior high, I didn't even like school. So I don't think I have a favorite teacher then, but later on I did. And actually it would be one of my college professors. He was my history professor and he hooked me into history because he made it come alive. And I remember his assignments, he would assign a paper called A Slice of Life, where we just didn't write a report about a time or a person in history, but we took that time or that person and wove it into a fictional story, including factual things. And I just loved that. And I've loved history ever since. So he was one who was able to hook me in to a subject that I'd never been interested in before. And I maintain that interest even today.
Thank you. And do you want to say where you serve as well?
Oh, sorry about that. Can you say that again? Because I actually got a phone call. I'm supposed to say where I represent?
Yes, correct.
Okay, sorry about that. So Representative Peggy Bennett, and I represent 27A, which is in southern Minnesota, and Albert Lee is the largest town in my district. And I actually taught elementary school in Albert Lee for 33 years in the public school there. Before retiring when I became a state representative. Was there anything else we were supposed to say? I missed your instructions.
No, I think you covered it. Thank you, Representative Bennett. Next up, I am seeing Representative Sandra Feist. Again, we're just covering where we represent and an opportunity to share a little bit about your favorite teacher and why.
Thank you. I represent District 41B, which covers the southern part of New Brighton, Columbia Heights, Hilltop, and St. Anthony. My favorite teacher was also a history teacher in high school, and for really similar reasons. He would make us sing songs from each era of history. And so I learned all the words to Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? And When I'm 64 for some reason. But he just really kind of brought the different eras to life and really forced us, whether we liked it or not, to be very enthusiastic, which I already was. So it was great. So thank you. I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you. And up next, I am seeing the lead, Representative Sandra Erickson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome Representative Richardson to Education Policy. Great to have you on board. I am Sandra Erickson, and I represent House District 15A, which is located in East Central Minnesota. In my school area, I have Elk River to the south, Cambridge and Mora to the east, Foley on the west, and Onamia, Isle, and more parts of Mora on the north. My home district is Princeton, where I also taught for nearly 40 years. In fact, I taught Kurt Dowd when he was a junior in high school at Princeton. My major subject was English. My favorite teacher was my third grade teacher who put me in love with the English language. And I reveled in it ever since. I think I've lost some of my prowess, but I still love the language. the literature and teaching it, of course. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Representative Erickson. Representative Heather Keeler, you're showing up next.
Thank you. My name is Heather Keeler. I represent District 4A, which is Moorhead and Oakport Township. I only have one school district, which is nice. I'm only working with one school board. When it comes to favorite teachers, it's a really difficult question for me because education was not beneficial for me. I actually had really awful teachers that always told me that because I'm Native, I'm just always going to be dumb, or like go get a job at the casino, like this. And I believed that. I think if there's one teacher that was inspiring to me and kind of opened a door for me, she was actually my English teacher, but it had nothing to do with English. It was the fact that she really encouraged me to go out for theater. And so it was a place for me to learn outside of sports where to put a little bit of energy and talent, and it's kind of a way for me to disappear in who I really was and kind of play this role of something that people liked. And so really helped me through high school. And so for that, I'm a big fan of extracurricular activities and what that can do for kids in the sense of belonging in our school districts. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Representative Keeler. Representative Bowe.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. Greg Bowe, I represent District 47B, which is Eastern Carver County, Chaska, Chanhassen, and Victoria down in the Southwest Metro. My favorite teacher would be back in high school, social studies and history teacher. It was a small town, so they ended up wearing hats in multiple areas and teaching a lot of different things. But the one thing that Miss Wheeler always did was shared stories from real life that would bring the things she was teaching, home for us, but also shared a lot with us about national pride and just the history and the tie into not only our nation, but the world, and how we all get together and how we all need to work together. And she made the world small, but yet very interesting for us.
Thank you for sharing. Representative Patricia Mueller.
Hello, I am Representative Patricia Mueller, representing 27B, which is Mower County, and my biggest city is Austin, where we make Spam, yay! But I also have the surrounding areas of Leroy, of Lyle, which touches Iowa, and I also have some of the other rural areas. I actually have several schools in the area that I'm in, including Lyle, Austin, Grand Meadow, Southland, Leroy, and a Catholic school of Pacelli as well. So lots of difference, everything kind of in my area, which is really exciting. I've been a teacher for 17 years and kind of have traveled around the world. I started in Blooming Prairie, southern Minnesota, and taught in China for a little while, and then Indianapolis, and now back in Minnesota, and obviously now at this job. So really excited to be a part of the Education Policy Committee. Favorite teacher, I'm like many of you, where it's difficult to decide which is my favorite teacher. The person who inspired me and pushed me to become an English teacher was my 10th grade English teacher, Mrs. Buskins. And she was very personal. She shared stories, and she was always excited about letting you try something different. And I really appreciated how she was able to connect with her students. So I always wanted to kind of be like Mrs. Buskins when I became a teacher. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Mueller. Representative Kayla Berg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Representative Kayla Berg. I represent 56B, which is Burnsville, and a little slice of Northern Lakeville. And I've got two school districts in my area, 196 and 191. And let's see, I have a similar response as Heather did in terms of having a couple of teachers that encouraged me to do theater, cheerleading, some of the the things that brought me out of my shell a little bit. And I also remember my humanities teacher making a big impact on me. So I went and majored in humanities when I was in college, which is essentially useless, but very interesting nonetheless. And I'm really excited to be on this committee because I know when I was talking to voters, education was a big part of my platform. And there were a lot of voters in my district that were concerned with special education and the funding for it, a lot of personal stories that I heard of families that were struggling. And I have a similar story with one of my sons who is a non-traditional learner, and we found some really good, finally, after years and years of advocating, and I realized what a privilege it was that I had the time to advocate for him as much as I did. But we finally found some things that worked for us. And so I'm excited to bring sort of that experience that connected me with voters when I was having conversations to try and make sure that we are incorporating that into our education policy. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Berg. Representative Kelly Moeller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm Kelly Moeller and I represent 42A, Shoreview, Mounds View, Arden Hills, and a little bit of Spring Lake Park, and mostly have the Mounds View School District that I represent. And my favorite teacher was probably my middle school teacher, Bonnie Ambrose. She was my English language arts teacher, and she really taught me how to diagram a sentence. And I do love to write, and I do a lot of writing in my other job as well. And I attribute that to the great work that Miss Ambrose did.
Thank you for sharing. Representative Shelley Christensen.
Hello, everyone. Lots of English teachers here. I represent 39B, which is in the St. Croix Valley, and mostly I have the Stillwater area school district. I have a little bit of Matamidi and a tiny little slice of North St. Paul. I am a retired high school English teacher also. And my favorite teacher, I'm going to say, was Mrs. Malmberg in third grade, because she recognized in me, and I struggled. I moved from a two-room schoolhouse, if you can believe it, in third grade to Marina on the St. Croix, which was a big school. And she recognized my love of reading and introduced me to the library. And that started me off, and I still feed that reading frenzy today. So I'll always be thankful to her. I remember the librarian then giving me my first book, Snowbound with Betsy. And that got me on the path to, by the time I was, in seventh grade, I had read many adult books, and it's a great escape if anyone needs to do anything like that. So I'll always remember Mrs. Malmberg and my elementary school librarian. So I'm excited to work on the committee. I have a passion for public education and what it can do for our kids and families. And I'm thrilled to work with all of you. So thanks much.
Thank you. Representative Peggy Scott.
Hello, everybody. Oh, how did I get that in the background? I have no idea. Anyway, strange things happen here on Zoom. Representative Peggy Scott. I represent the cities of Andover, Northern Coon Rapids, and a little bit of the city of Ramsey. It's I think my third term on this committee. My favorite teacher was a high school teacher, Mr. Douglas. He was social studies and current events and that sort of thing, but he was also a coach. And so he was also known as Doc Douglas, and he passed away a couple of years ago, and just very sad, but he just was very personal to each student. And in fact, back in the days of tape recorders and cassette tapes, when I'd come in the classroom for class, he played the song Peggy Sue, because that's my middle name. So that was his way of one of his ways of personalizing his class to me. But just a very personable guy, and made each student feel, I guess, important.
Thank you for sharing that. Vice Chair Hodan Hassan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hodan Hassan. I represent Minneapolis School District. And I was a little bit late, so I'm guessing we're sharing a favorite teachers. That's what I picked up. Well, my family moved, we immigrated from Somalia in my, early teen years, and we started life in Florida. So coming to the US, not knowing English, for the first 2 years, most of the days, my siblings and I spent in a small classroom of what was supposed to be an ELL classroom, but it was just like, I think it was supposed to be a closet originally, and they didn't have a place to put us. They didn't know what to do with us. So they decided to just put find a teacher and just put us in this small closet that was supposed to be a classroom. And that's where we spent most of our days trying to learn English. Looking back now, it sounds really miserable. But for me, I was, and my siblings, we were new in this country. We knew nothing. We didn't know a whole lot. And everything, all the English words that I have learned and my siblings have learned, we learned from Mrs. Lee. She was Chinese American, and she was one of the most kind and caring humans I have met. And that's like my most memorable teacher that comes to mind. And I'm excited to be here. My father was an educator, so I have a long line of educators in my family. And my dad always used to say, education is the only, key to success. So that left a mark on me. And I am a firm believer that we can reform our education to make sure that it benefits every child, not, a certain group. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Representative Poston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My favorite teacher actually was my principal, Mr. Padilla. I went to a really small school. So Mr. Padilla was the principal. He was a counselor. He was the #1 substitute teacher, and he was my football coach. And he was just an all-around great guy. He was also a friend of the family. So I really had to behave myself at school because my parents would find out about everything that I did during school and after school because he was involved in everything. But I represent District 9A, which is in north central Minnesota, Cass, Todd, and Wadena County, and I have 9 school districts. And I look forward to being on this committee.
Thank you, Representative Poston. Representative Wozlowick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everyone. Representative Amy Wozlowick. I represent District 38B, which includes Wiper Township, Delwood, North Oaks, and parts of Hugo and Wiper Lake. And I have several districts in my district, including the largest one is Wiper Lake Schools. I would say, I think picking a favorite teacher is hard for me, but I would say probably one of my favorite teachers was probably my high school choir teacher. I really liked choir, and it was kind of the one escape from sort of the normal school stuff of academics. So I really liked that class and got to know her really well as an adult after graduating too. So.
Thank you. Representative Jordan.
Hi everyone, it's good to be on this committee again. My name is Sydney Jordan. I represent Northeast Minneapolis and Southeast Como with 60A. And I only have one district, which is Minneapolis Public Schools. I'm proud to represent Minneapolis Public Schools, especially our schools in Northeast and Como. Yeah, I also struggle with coming up with one favorite teacher, but I'll stick to theme and say that, one of my 2 favorite teachers were an English teacher, Mrs. Scow, and a social studies teacher, Mr. Davis, who both. And I think both of those teachers just really stick with me because they really pushed me to do more and to be a better student and to be a better writer. It also really encouraged my love of reading. So they would always, and I maybe resented this a little bit at the time, they'd always make me read extra, but I always did it because I loved her. So yeah, I'm really grateful to them and all the wonderful teachers I had.
Thank you for sharing. Representative Frazier.
Hey everybody, Cedric Frazier, District 45A, which covers parts of Crystal, majority of the city of New Hope, and then the eastern part of Plymouth. Now, I just got to say back to Rep. Keeler, what you said earlier about having the teachers that didn't believe in you or weren't supportive. It breaks my heart to hear that anytime I hear students say that. I think that teachers, most teachers do this job because they love it and they really are supportive of students, and they are the ones that provide that encouragement and push them, as some of the others have spoke about. So it breaks my heart to hear you say that. My favorite teacher was Miss Jeter, my fourth grade teacher. Like some other folks have said, she pushed me to be better than maybe what I was trying to be. But most importantly, I remember one time she said to me, I am absolutely Cedric, I'm trying to prepare you for what the world is going to be to you and how the world is going to treat you. And I need you to be ready for that once you leave this community. So love Miss Jeter. Still think about her quite frequently. She's my favorite teacher.
Thank you. Representative Drazkowski.
Hi, everybody. Steve Drazkowski, House District 21B, Wabasha, Goodhue, Winona, and a portion of Dodge County in southeastern Minnesota. It's my 14th year in the legislature. I have yet, Madam Chair, to be on the education committees, and I'm getting a full dose this session. I'm going to be on both of them, and so you're going to have to. Maybe you don't have to tolerate it, but you're going to be part of the conservative discussion that I want to bring to the committee, and some new ideas that haven't seemed to manifest themselves since I have been here. My favorite teacher was Mrs. Wichorek, which none of you can spell because it took me a while to spell it. And that's a Polish name, and so I might I've got the inside track on that spelling. But she was my fourth grade teacher. She recognized the areas of strength that I and others in my class had, and found ways to capitalize on those and bring us to challenge ourselves and grow much more rapidly than any teacher before her. So I really became fond of her because of her desire for us all to be better, and for her not taking anything less. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Drazkowski. Next up, I have one of my good friends, Representative Erdahl. Oh, you're muted, Representative.
All right, now I'm unmuted, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I represent District 18A, which includes all of Meeker County, Litchfield being the largest city. I'm a native of Litchfield. And then 3 townships in McLeod, including half of Hutchinson, and then 1 township in Wright County, which includes Cokato. My school districts, Dassel, Cokato, Eden Valley, Watkins, Litchfield, Atwater, Cosmos, Grove City, Hutchinson. Those are my 5 school districts. I taught for 35 years at New London Spicer, also coached cross-country running. 3 state championship teams, but I won't dwell on that. And as far as my favorite teacher is concerned, actually there are 3, and I'll briefly mention 2. In college, Dr. Edwin Cates, and in high school, Mr. Ray Evans. But in 4th grade, I had Miss Dorothy Scovalt. And Miss Scovalt, I think I felt was the first teacher that actually believed that I had some potential to do something. And so she treated me a little bit differently than the others. And there's a moment where we had a science fair in school, and they had various things for sale, one of them being a large starfish. I really wanted that starfish, but I didn't have enough money. So Miss Goldfault kicked in a quarter or whatever it was, and I got my starfish, which is still displayed in my bathroom at home. So, very pleasant memories with her. One of the regrets that I have in life is that when I was elected to the legislature in 2002 now, I never reached out and talked to her. And it's too late now because she's gone. But look forward to working on this committee with you. As you know, Chair Richardson, I have some various ideas on some things, and I look forward to working with you and hopefully getting them done. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Edelson.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be on policy this year. I was on education finance last year, so that was exciting. My favorite teacher came from Willard Elementary, which was a school that was closed in 2006. It's in North Minneapolis. The building is still, and it was closed because of No Child Left Behind, which we all know didn't necessarily do that. I went to a school that had 90% of the children that had free and reduced lunch. Mr. Moore was my favorite teacher. He was actually our gym teacher. The reason I loved him is because we would come in to his class and he would just love us. If you've seen Lucy Laney, it was really similar. He played that same role. And so I just have such fond memories. And the one thing I also wanted to say is Rep. Mueller, spam, my son, my fifth grader, when you said that your district has the spam factor, he like squealed in the background. So anyways, you have a big fan here and just really excited to be on this committee.
Thank you, Representative Edelson. And I represent District 52B, which includes Inver Grove Heights, Mendota Heights, Sunfish Lake, and Egan. I've got 3 school districts there. And my favorite teacher, I went back to early elementary, 2nd grade, Mrs. Swanson. Mrs. Swanson was the first teacher that I had that really taught me that the world is wide open and that there is a lot that is possible. She supported my love of reading and was just a very kind soul. And she was also the first teacher that actually had us write letters to our elected officials in 2nd grade. And so I have very fond memories of Mrs. Swanson. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to staff very quickly to introduce themselves and also the role that they will play on the committee. Again, I will just read people in the order that I'm seeing them show up on my screen. Ellen Larson.
Hi, I'm Ellen Larson. I'm the committee legislative assistant. So if you have any questions relating to CLA stuff, I can help you out.
Thank you. Tim Strom.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. My name is Tim Strom, and I'm one of the staff from House Research. I'll be working with my partner, Christine Para, to help you with education issues. We staff the committee table, including the virtual table for you. And we're also available, of course, to work with all members of the House on any education issue that they may face. I'm looking forward to another exciting year. I've been blessed to be a part of the Education Committee for 30-some years, and it's just a real joy to me to be here. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Christina Para.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. I'm Christina Para from House Research. I work with Tim Strom, and we work on bill drafts and bill summaries and any kind of question that any committee member has or any House member has on education policy matters. Just go ahead and email us and we can help you track down any information you're looking for.
Thank you. Jody Withers.
Yes, Jody Withers with House GOP Research. I assist the Republican members
of the House Republican Caucus on the education committees, including the Early Childhood Committee.
Thank you. Laura Taken-Holtze.
Hi, Laura Taken-Holtze. I'm the CA for the committee, so I assist the chair and I just try to make sure that these meetings run smoothly. And so if you need anything, please feel free to reach out either email or in the chat or anything like that.
And Mars Beltrandi.
Mars Beltrandi-Rudquist. I work for the DFL caucus members of this committee, as well as the Education, Finance, and Early Childhood committees.
Thank you. Well, and thank you to everyone for bearing with us as we took a little bit of time to do those introductions. We are excited to have the Minnesota Department of Education here today to help kick us off with an MDE overview. I know that we have several new members to the Ed Policy Committee and also several that are newly elected as well. And so thought that it would be really helpful to start with a grounding and an overview of the agency. And I know I really want to thank Commissioner Ricker for making this possible along with staff. And I don't quite know the order that the presentations are going to take place in, but I believe Commissioner Ricker is going to kick us off. So we'll just ask individuals to introduce themselves for the record before starting their testimony. Commissioner Ricker.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chair Richardson. I'm really grateful. My name is Mary Catherine Ricker, and I am Commissioner of Education. And our whole team is really, really appreciative of you asking for us to come today and provide an overview of the Department of Education. And we will make sure that each of us introduces ourselves during our portion of the meeting. And we can make sure, and I did see if you haven't already, Team MDE, if you would include your role and title in your Zoom name as well as was asked. We'll just make sure that is taken care of. Thank you again. And we really look forward to just being able to share the overall mission of our work, the way our agency does our work, the divisions in our agency, the responsibilities we have. And I know we look forward to coming back to your committee. Specifically, we are coming back later this week to talk about the Safe Learning Plan. So thank you very much for the generosity of your agenda time for us for that as well. And we absolutely look forward to being partners with you, pardon me, throughout this legislative session. In working together. And why don't we get started with our presentation? And thank you, Megan, for getting us started. So we're just going to give you this agency overview today. And again, we'll make sure that we each introduce ourselves. I'm really excited to have my number of my leadership team with me here today. I think we spoke throughout this pandemic. I've had the opportunity to say a few different times that it is an all hands on deck effort at the Department of Education, meeting the needs of our students and families, our school communities, and our libraries. And so we're going to give you a glimpse of that today, along with some of the outstanding colleagues I have at the Department of Education. So we're going to start with our 10 Minnesota commitments to equity. This was a process that the Department of Education engaged in a very comprehensive fashion with, across the agency, actually in 2018. In October of 2018 was when the department solidified and committed to these 10 commitments to equity. And it was one of the very first things that the staff at the department introduced me to. And it is very much one of the things I embraced was beginning all of our presentations, all of our work with the 10 commitments to equity and grounding us in this work. And then you'll see that the One Minnesota vision is also something that really helps ground us in our work, it is absolutely imperative that we work every day to make sure that Minnesota becomes the best state in the country for our children to grow up in, those of all races, ethnicities, religions, economic statuses, gender identities, sexual orientations, abilities and disabilities, and zip codes. And we serve, just to kind of give you a snapshot of who we're talking about when we talk about doing our daily work. Pre-kindergarten students through our adult basic education programs, as well as state library services. So over 2,000 public schools, almost 60,000 teachers, and over 840,000 students in pre-K through grade 12. And so as we keep all of those students and families and school communities and our libraries in mind, really our supports and our services include this work to support our local education agencies, our school systems, organizations, educators. When we talk about meeting the needs of our school communities, and we talk about our students and their families and educators, meaning our bus drivers, our paraprofessionals, our teachers, our counselors, our social workers, principals and assistant principals, superintendents, charter school directors, our school board members, our charter board members. We know that everyone is contributing to those school communities. And so when we think through our work, we think through everyone's contributions and how our contributions then support the contributions of everyone in meeting the needs of our students on a daily basis and providing that support and assistance to our families. And so this is a snapshot of our organization chart. We're actually going to use this organization chart as a little bit of our of how we shape our presentation today. And so with that, I will turn it over next to our Deputy Commissioner, Dr. Heather Mueller. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner.
Yep. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Heather Mueller, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner with the Department of Education. Thank you, Chair Richardson, as well as members of the committee for allowing us to come in and have this conversation with you today. We're just going to talk to you a little bit more about like who we are and what we do, and some of the very high level components that really make up our agency. And so first, we'd like to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and then we'll be following up with the Office of American Indian Education, our Office of Teaching and Learning, our Office of Student Health and Wellbeing, and then our Office of Finance and Operations. The first thing we'd like to talk about today is something that we're going to be adding to the Department of Education, and that is an Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Center. It is something that has been missing at the Department of Education. It is going to be really focused on looking not only internally, but also supporting externally our school districts and our charter schools. We are in the process now of hiring an EDI Center Director, and they're really going to be helping us as we work to ensure that we are working to ensure equitability within our staff, within professional development and learning across our board, implementing and developing an equity framework that can be used with our public school districts as well as our charter schools, and then also working with our staff at a variety of levels to ensure that we're implementing strategies and procedures that are really driving organizational change. It is a core and foundational belief of the Department of Education that the equity, diversity, and inclusion is a core and principle and a foundational component of the work that we need to be doing, not only internally, but also externally. And we really want to ensure that we have a division that is focused specifically on that work. The next piece of that is really looking at what is that going to include? Well, they'll be directing and overseeing our internal equity work, like I said, as well as our workforce diversity and inclusion efforts, our equal opportunity and affirmative action goals. They'll be providing leadership and recommendations to our schools, our districts, and our communities in Minnesota that better support our students and families, as well as our communities across the state. And they're going to be supporting our work in the state and federal civil rights, as well as affirmative action and equal opportunity laws. And so we are really excited about the inclusion and development of this center, and recognize the important role this is going to play, not only for our agency, but more importantly for our students, families, and communities.
The Office of American Indian Education currently has 3 staff. We serve over 26,000 American Indian students in the state, as well as their families, educators, administrators, and superintendents. Everyone, again, who is working together to meet the needs of our American Indian students. We provide resources and guidance, make sure that we support American Indian Parent Advisory Committees where we can, as well as supporting the Minnesota Department of Education in our work to coordinate this support. And just under the Indian Education Act of 1988, very specifically, the office serves 211 districts currently in the state who have more than 10 American Indian identified students.
Hi, good afternoon. Chair Richardson, committee members, thank you for this opportunity to share our work. My name is Bobby Burnham, and I am the Assistant Commissioner that oversees the Office of Teaching and Learning at the department. Those divisions within the Office of Teaching and Learning include equity and opportunity, assessments, academic standards, college and career success, early learning services, and school support. So I'm going to give a very high level overview of each of these divisions, and we're going to start with equity and opportunity. So in this division, there are 23 staff supporting 17 different programs directed at supporting equitable access, opportunity, representation, and achievement outcomes for all of Minnesota learners. Direct support of district and charter school leaders on allowable uses of funds and ensuring compliance activities are completed while minimizing any burden on school districts. In the Equity and Opportunity Division, there are state programs, one being the World's Best Workforce, which, as many of you know, is a framework that supports the long-term comprehensive strategic planning to support and improve teaching and learning at all district and charter schools. This plan addresses the following 5 goals. All children are ready for school. All 3rd graders can read at grade level. All racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed, and all students are ready for college and career, and all students graduate from high school. Another program or another unit in this division is the Achievement and Integration Team. The purpose of the Achievement and Integration program for Minnesota is to pursue racial and economic integration, increase student achievement, create equitable educational opportunities, and reduce academic disparities based on students' diverse racial and ethnic, as well as economic backgrounds in Minnesota's public schools. The 3rd unit is the Multilingual Education Team, support for multilingual learners and their families, ensuring 1, multilingualism and multiculturalism are positioned as educational and economic assets. Teachers and administrators receive appropriate preparation and continued professional development to support the multilingual learners. Instruction is differentiated for the diversity of the multilingual learners, and multicultural family voices are engaged and included in the educational process. This also includes the implementation of the bilingual and multilingual SEALS program. The next area in equity and opportunity is federal programs, which is the ESSA accountability work that the department does, as well as the ESCA title programs that this division oversees. The 8 programs targeting services to student groups in public and non-public settings with access to well-rounded educational experiences. And those specific programs include economically disadvantaged students, English learners, students experiencing homelessness, students in foster care, migrant students, immigrants and refugees, students who are identified as neglected or delinquent, and academically at-risk learners. Also, this division is the lead division who is managing and facilitating the distribution of the CARES Act education funding. Next in this division is the federal programs, and I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can see that there are 8 separate ESEA title programs. Each of these includes subgrants to districts and charter schools, and these are categorical funds targeting student groups to support equitable access, opportunity, representation, and achievement outcomes for all of Minnesota learners. The next division in the Office of Teaching and Learning is Minnesota's Assessments Division. And this division this division includes the statewide assessment program, and we develop our standards with the input and expertise of Minnesota's teachers and educators. We build our academic assessments on those standards and further include Minnesota teachers, experts, and community members in the multi-year development process. We send Minnesota teachers to the WIDA consortium to weigh in on the development of our English learner assessments, the access and alternative access, which are built on the state statute adapted by the WIDA standards. And in addition, because MCA and MTES evaluate how effective a school district is in teaching Minnesota's academic standards, we feel strongly that it is important for our districts to access the results of our statewide assessments as quickly as possible. This is why we work with our assessment vendor to ensure that initial student results and district reports are available within 1 hour of the student completing the assessments. The next team in the assessment division is our data analytics. And this is really a cross-agency team that serves for multiple purposes and a range of services around data in areas such as accountability, school finance, student demographic and trends, discipline, early learning, and special education. So this is a team in the agency that everybody participates in and partners with. The next division in the Office of Teaching and Learning is Academic Standards and Instructional Effectiveness. This division provides content area expertise and support for pre-K through 12 schools throughout Minnesota, guiding, identifying, and embedding the academic standards. The outcomes for all students, promoting high quality instructional practices, as well as collaborating with professional organizations, districts, and the P20 Partnership for equitable and educational experiences for each student throughout the state. It includes the work of the dyslexia support team and implementing that legislation. And it also includes the instructional integration of other programs. Included are Gifted and Talented, the STEM program, computer science, environmental and outdoor learning, the turnaround arts. The Academic Standards Division also implements federal grants to improve instructional programs, as well as facilitates the process for several reward programs, which many of you may be familiar with, including the Blue Ribbon, Green Ribbon Schools, or Presidential for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Education. The next division is the College and Career Success Division. And there are 3 units within this division. The Career Development and Technical Education team. This team oversees the public funding and policy regarding programs which span the transition from high school, career, and education prep through adult learning. And the next team in this division is the Adult Basic Ed team. This team provides education programs to complete credits in career pathway programming for adults to earn their high school diploma, standard adult diploma, or high school equivalency credential, currently the GED. The ABE is a collaborative partner in the workforce development landscape through WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovative Opportunity Act, post-secondary institutions, social services, and the business and industry partners. And the third team within the College and Career Success Division is the High School to Post-Secondary Initiatives team. This encompasses high school to post-secondary prep programs such as advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and dual credit, as well as high school online learning, alternative learning, early middle college, and career information programs. And the next division within this office is Early Learning Services. And as you know, Early Learning Services plays just a vital role because we feel it just really begins with high quality early learning opportunities. So in this division, we work across multiple partners with schools, charter schools, Head Start, child care programs, and community-based organizations to enhance the state and regional efforts to align policies, practices, and instruction and professional development along that pre-K through third grade continuum. We work to expand access to high quality inclusive learning opportunities, which include school readiness, voluntary pre-K, school readiness plus, early childhood family education, Head Start. And we work to strengthen alignment of instruction, assessment, and curriculum across those pre-K through third grade standards. So we work closely with all divisions within MDE to ensure that everyone works to partner with the Early Learning Services Division and get those policies and practices aligned. We also strengthen the guidance to implement best practices for early childhood special education, dual language learners, and work to intentionally engage families and communities in their early learning opportunities. We also work across divisions to promote strategies to ensure the state has a highly skilled early childhood workforce, as well as work to ensure we use data to ensure equitable policy planning and practices are implemented. And the sixth division within the Office of Teaching and Learning is school support. And within that division, we have the Educator Effectiveness Unit, which facilitates the implementation of QComp, the Teacher Principal Development Evaluation System. There's a cross-agency and external stakeholder group that works on the equitable access to diverse and effective teachers. And we have a school leader coaching and support team in that unit. The next team in the school support division is the School Climate Center. And this team focuses on the social emotional learning aspects, school mental health services, discipline, restorative practices, bullying prevention, and the School Climate Transformation Grant, as well as the Project Aware Grant. The other work in this division is the School Improvement Unit, which supports schools identified for improvement in the Minneapolis and St. Paul public schools. It includes our work with the full service community schools, engages in across division teams to work with family engagement supports, English learner programming supports, as well as the Minnesota Early Indicator and Response System. And then the last team in this unit is the Regional Centers of Excellence, which directly supports schools identified for improvement under the ESSA Act. Also includes principal leadership specialists, as well as school climate specialists and tribal nation consultation and engagement supports. And with that, that is a very high level overview of each of the 6 divisions in the Office of Teaching and Learning.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Darren Cordy. I'm an assistant commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Education, and I support the Office of Student Health and Well-Being. You can see our divisions there below, and we will walk through those in detail for you to give you a sense of the work that we do in our office. So the first division that we'll be talking about is our Compliance and Assistance Division. This division does a number of different things, including special education program monitoring. So this is something that our state agency is required to do under the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. The Division of Compliance and Assistance is responsible for ensuring each district demonstrates general compliance and continuous improvement in the implementation of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And we also offer online training opportunities, including navigating IEPs, goals and objectives, progress reporting, and prior written notices. This division also does special education fiscal monitoring. The fiscal monitoring team provides oversight of special education formula grants to ensure compliance with federal and state laws, regulations, and regulatory guidance. Through risk analysis, desk reviews, on-site reviews, and the Minnesota Continuous Improvement Monitoring Process, also known as MINSIP, fiscal monitors determine whether required controls are in place and are being spent and funds are being spent responsibly. And the fiscal monitoring cycle takes place over a 5-year period. The next piece that our compliance and assistance deals with is special education due process and alternative dispute resolution. This is also a requirement of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, but this division administers the special education alternative dispute resolution, complaint, and hearing systems to provide support to parents and districts when special education conflicts arise. Another important function of this team is that they help facilitate the state restrictive procedures work group. And the last unit within this division is the Student Maltreatment Program. The Student Maltreatment Program assesses and investigates reports of alleged physical abuse, neglect, or sexual abuse of students that occurs in Minnesota public schools and charter schools. And this includes allegations of maltreatment, including students 18 to 21 years of age, including students receiving special education services, up to and until graduation and the issuance of a secondary diploma. Our trained maltreatment investigators review each report and determine whether maltreatment occurred and whether an individual or facility is responsible. We are a third-party unbiased investigation team and do not represent or advocate for any of the parties involved in the investigation process. The next division I'd like to introduce to you is the Nutrition, Health, and Youth Development Division. The Nutrition, Health, and Youth Development Division administers our school nutrition programs. So the large ones that you see there are our National School Lunch Program, our School Breakfast Program, and our After School Care Program. For the National School Lunch and Breakfast programs, these are sponsored, or I should say funded, by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and administered by the Nutrition, Health, and Youth Development Division within MDE. And the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast programs and After Care programs provide cash reimbursement to public schools, private nonprofit schools, and residential child care institutions for nutritious meals and snacks served to children in preschool through grade 12 at a minimal cost. And families apply for meals served at a free or reduced price rate based on the income levels of their household. The other program that they administer is the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP. This is another USDA-funded program administered by MDE, and this program provides payments for meals and snacks served at adult care centers, child care centers, daycare homes, at-risk after-school care centers, and emergency shelters. Meals and snacks under this program must meet minimum guidelines set forth by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And CACFP helps institutions and daycare homes serve well-balanced, nutritious meals and snacks to the participants in their care. Serving nutritious meals and snacks contributes to the wellness, healthy growth, and development of young children and the health and wellness of older adults. Another program they administer is the Summer Food Service Program, or SFSP. This, again, is a U.S. Department of Agriculture funded program administered by MDE that provides cash reimbursement to sponsoring schools and nonprofit organizations that serve nutritious meals and snacks that meet eligibility requirements. Reimbursement is provided under this program for meals served to children ages 18 and under, typically when school is not in session and there is not a requirement for income documentation or free and reduced price tiers. This program operates primarily during the summer months, but year-round schools sometimes will receive reimbursement through this program during school breaks. Most notably, though, during the pandemic, under USDA waivers, most schools in Minnesota are currently operating the Summer Food Service Program during the 2020-21 school year, which has allowed schools and our nonprofit partners to serve all students and children 18 and under at no cost. The next program is the Food Distribution Program. This is, again, a USDA program in which we help distribute USDA commodity foods to Minnesota schools participating in the lunch program or summer food service program. We provide this through participating sponsors through a preference survey that they fill out twice a year in the spring and the fall. We survey sponsors to determine the demand and the orders and then coordinate the distribution of USDA commodity foods to schools. There are a couple milk programs that this division also administers. One is the Special Milk Program, which is a federal USDA program that provides cash reimbursement for milk at a rate of 20.5 cents per half pint served. This program can be operated at public and private nonprofit schools, residential childcare institutions, childcare centers, summer camps, and other sites sponsored by nonprofit organizations. The second program is the Minnesota Kindergarten Milk Program, and this is a state-specific, state-funded program that provides additional cash reimbursement for milk that is not served as part of the federal special milk program. And under this program, milk is reimbursed at 20 cents per half pint, and the program can operate in public and private nonprofit schools, as well as boarding schools. Another program that this division administers is the Team Nutrition Program. This is another USDA program that works to alleviate childhood obesity and promote physical activity. The program provides training and technical assistance to food service staff, provides nutrition education for children and their caregivers, as well as school and community support for healthy eating and physical activity. And the last major program that this division oversees is, well, there are two I should say here. First is the 21st Century Community Learning Centers. This is a U.S. Department of Education program that the Minnesota Department of Education administers. We've been administering the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program since 2002. The purpose of this program is to establish or expand community learning centers that provide students with enrichment opportunities during non-school hours or periods when school is not in session, such as before and after school or during summer breaks. These federal funds are included as part of the Every Student Succeeds Act and are awarded through a competitive peer review process that prioritizes programs serving students in high poverty and low performing schools. Another partnership we have through this division is with the Minnesota Youth Council and the Minnesota Alliance with Youth. Representatives from the Youth Development Unit within this division work closely with the Student Advisory Committee of the Minnesota Youth Council to help them work toward and help us work toward ensuring equal access to learning opportunities and increasing options available for students to create better educational experiences. The next division we'd like to talk about is our special education division. The primary task of this division is providing training, expertise, information and resources, and technical assistance to our schools and stakeholders through a number of projects funded through the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. We also help with local planning and service delivery, program evaluation and problem solving, and positive outcomes for students with disabilities. We have specialists, subject matter expertise in each of the categorical disability areas for K-12 schools, and also focus on promoting the least restrictive environment, also known as most integrated settings for graduation, classroom secondary transition, and equity and equitable outcomes. The division also has several guiding principles that you can see there. First, of course, is supporting the whole child thinking and recognizing the unique needs of each child to help prepare them for education, employment, and independent living. We also have several partners, both in schools with the advocacy community, as well as other state agencies that help us amplify the contributions that they provide to our schools. And then we also look at evidence-based outcomes for model accountability. You can see the different programs that we do here. In the interest of time, I won't go through each one of them, but I think as you spend time on the committee, you will hear about some of these programs, and we'll obviously be happy to help share more about the ins and outs of these specific programs as our time with the committee goes on. The next group that is within our office is the Charter Center, focusing on the work of charter schools and charter authorizers. We help provide leadership, support, and oversight to promote high-quality charter schools and authorizer excellence under Minnesota's charter school law. Conduct evaluation and approval processes, including consultation, training, and technical assistance, and developing resources to foster a strong state chartering environment. We also manage the federal charter school program grant, which currently receives about $38.5 million over the course of 5 years to increase and expand the number of high-quality charter schools that are operating within the state. The Charter Center also delivers training, technical assistance, and resources to help improve charter school performance and quality, as well as increase effective charter school authorizing processes. And we also promote opportunities for charter schools to implement high-quality early learning instructional programs. Another piece of the Charter Center is the school choice ombudsperson. This person provides support and technical assistance on other school choice programs and non-traditional school programs, such as the flexible learning year, questions around compulsory education, open enrollment, as well as non-public and homeschool requirements. Another maybe lesser known piece of our work is with state library services. Of course, we do work with K-12 libraries as part of this work, but also our municipal libraries and our state and county regional library partners. So we, again, have partnerships to help achieve equity and excellence in our collective work through library services for Minnesotans. We also have federal grants, state aids, and state grant programs that benefit all types of libraries. And we also actually operate the Minnesota Braille and Talking Book Library in Faribault, Minnesota. So for the state programs, you can see there, I won't go into much detail on each of those since we can really get down into the weeds, but there are several state-specific programs that are funded by the Minnesota legislature that we administer in the State Library Services Division. And then you can also see the Library Services and Technology Act, which is our federal programs, which is about $2.7 million per year on a 5-year plan, and support services like interlibrary loan, as well as the Braille and Talking Book Library, and competitive grant opportunities for innovative library programs to local libraries. And with that, I'll turn it over to our CFO, Denise Anderson.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Richardson and members. My name is Denise Anderson, and I am the Chief Financial Officer at the Department of Education. And thank you very much for having us here today. The last section of units we're going to be discussing today are in the finance and operating activities. We have school finance, agency finance, our IT unit, human resources, communications, and government relations. In the school finance area, probably one of the most critical activities that's performed in this unit is the processing of the annual $9 billion annually in the state aid payments that go out to the schools twice a month. We also, as a department, process about $1 million in federal funds that go out as well. Some other areas that this team provides support is in with the policymakers. They help to evaluate our finance system, the education finance system, and they develop policy and funding recommendations for decision makers to consider. They also support policymakers through doing some modeling. They model funding proposals, they staff work groups, they testify at legislature. And we also coordinate about 100 fiscal notes each year on the school finance legislation that gets considered during each legislative session. This unit also is responsible for data modeling and preparing information for our November and February forecasts. So in the near future, you'll be seeing some of the information that comes out in the February forecast, and also any interim budgets that the state, budget forecasts that the state may choose to implement. And property tax levies as well. In the financial management area, they provide support to all of our local education areas. By law, they're required to conduct at least 25 financial audits of school districts each year, school districts and charter schools. They provide technical assistance, and they help to maintain the uniform accounting and reporting standards database. That's where all of the schools, they submit their financial data on an annual basis. In the school facilities area, they review and comment on school construction projects that are over $2 million. They also process charter school lease aid applications and help to calculate the public transportation aid. In our agency finance area, this unit supports, like some of the units that Bobby was talking about, this is a cross-agency unit that supports all of the financial and accounting across the departments. They coordinate our budgets, and we do biennial budgets, supplemental budgets, annual budgets. We have a very small capital budget, but there are oftentimes a couple of capital budget items that move through session. We do some financial and accounting reporting, grant management and administration. We do the budgeting for the grants, fiscal monitoring, payments, processing the grant agreements, and then some grant writing as well. Federal funds management, providing periodic reporting across the agency on our federal funds. Another small unit, but important, is internal control and risk mitigation. On an annual basis, the agency does a control environment self-assessment. We do risk assessment planning and mitigation. And then something that's been important this past year is the continuity planning that went on up to and then implementing continuity plans. So that's our internal control and risk mitigation activities. And then we have some of the standard accounting operations, that you'll see across any organization: procurement and contracts, accounts payable. We have a small accounts receivable and payroll activities. Another partner with us is Minute. Minute supports all of the IT for all of our systems across the department. They organize their services as infrastructure. That would be like our network, our applications, Transactional would be our school finance apps, all of those data collection systems. And then they also partner with us doing some collaborative strategic work between state, federal, and other organizations. And just briefly on the next page, they provided us with a list of their priorities for FY21. And I apologize, I see there's a lot of acronyms on there, but they are responsible for supporting the Safe Learning Plan dashboard that many of you may have seen on our website. The PEBT project, which is the Pandemic Electronic Benefit Transfer Project. That's a data collection project related to meal applications. Foster care reports is another data item where they're adding a filter to track students in or who have been in foster care. MoMA, which stands for the Maltreatment of Minors Act. We're doing some enhancements to that system. That data is used to resolve maltreatment investigations. SERVS stands for the State Educational Record View and Submission System, and which is why we like SERVS. But that system is used primarily by districts and charter schools. They use that system to apply for funding, submit their reimbursement requests. These are like the non-formula and grants process. Go through there. We're looking at enhancing how those payments are made. And then the North American Indian race and ethnicity filters is related to some reporting and adding some additional filters for our public files. So with that, Madam Chair, thank you. And I will turn it over to Adosh Uni. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, my name is Adosh Uni. I'm the Director of Government Relations at the Department of Education. And I just wanted to round out the presentation with just a short introduction of the Government Relations team, the Communications Division and the Human Resources Division to provide the support for the department for their ongoing operations with their team members, as well as providing communications about the ongoing efforts and updates in the education arena. And the Government Relations team is really the team that you'll be interacting with on a regular basis from the department in hearings, and you can reach out to us on a regular basis about any of your questions that you have about anything related to education, as well as any bills. There'll be times when we reach out to you all about bills that you are interested in terms of our thoughts there. And so my name is Adosh Uni. I'm the Director of Government Relations. My team members are Shana Morris. She is the Assistant Director of Government Relations, and then Megan Ariola is the Legislative Coordinator. So you'll see us in and out of the hearings on a regular basis. So thank you. And with that, Madam Chair, I believe the Commissioner and the rest of the team stand for any questions.
Thank you, Adosh, for the information, and also thank you, Commissioner Rickard, and all the other staff that have provided a quick overview. So we'll open it up to questions. Please use the raised hand function, and I will attempt to call people in the order that I see occur. I'm not currently seeing any hands raised for questions. Although I noted in the chat that Vice Chair Hassan, you had asked if there was going to be time for questions. Do you have a question?
No, I was just checking in with timing to make sure that people have time to ask questions. Thank you. I see Representative Ordal has his hand up.
Representative Erdahl.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of quick ones, Madam Chair. First, I think Commissioner Cordy might answer this. With special education, what we hear from special education teachers is a lot about the excessive paperwork that they have to do. And over the years, we've struggled with trying to reduce that. Does Commissioner Cordy have any view on that topic? Is anything being done about the paperwork that special education teachers have to do?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Representative Erdahl, thank you for the question. It is an issue that we are constantly wrestling with. What is the best line that we can walk in terms of making sure that we're getting the documentation that we need to ensure that students' due process rights are being met, while also not overburdening our teachers with unnecessary paperwork that kind of goes beyond really what's needed for those due process rights. And so what we've been trying to do, and this is a project that has been in progress for a number of years now, or at least a few years now, is moving towards what we call results-based accountability. So rather than having kind of your compliance checklist that you would come in where you go through each, of the specific, prior written notices, IEPs, and going through each of those to make sure that you're checking the boxes, that we're really actually trying to look more at what are the results that we're seeing from students as a result of these changes, and moving more towards a continuous improvement model. I think you may have heard me mention during my presentation about the creation of what we're calling the Minnesota Continuous Improvement Monitoring Project. So this will be an online system that schools and districts can use to go through their program monitoring process and really try and use that as a method to learn where some deficiencies in their processes might exist and how that they can improve those processes to improve student outcomes, rather than it just being, again, that strict compliance kind of checking the box type mentality. And we've gotten some great feedback from special education administrators and teachers about it. I mean, obviously we know there's always still more work to do and things that we can take a look at. But I think our partnerships with the field on this effort are stronger than they've ever been, and we hope to continue that.
Okay.
Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Commissioner Cordy. I appreciate the work that you are doing on this, and I urge you to keep on and make it as seamless as we can for our special education teachers to do their job. One other question. I think this would probably be for Commissioner Ricker, but maybe not. I'll just throw it out. What is the plan for the MCAs this year? Are they going to be given this year? Could someone, I guess, tell me as the plans?
Commissioner Ricker, would you like to take that, or someone else on your team?
I am certainly happy to take it. And if there's anyone on my team who would like to add anything, I would welcome them as well. So thank you so much, Madam Chair, Representative Erdahl. Thank you for that question. As you recall, last spring, the U.S. Department of Education, in an unprecedented move, they gave a waiver across the country for the standardized tests that needed to be part of our accountability system. And at that time, Minnesota was one of the states across the country who took advantage of that waiver, as did I think just about every other state in the country. The U.S. Department of Education was very clear earlier this year that they would not be applying a similar waiver to this year's accountability measures this spring. And so we have been working toward this spring's MCA tests, making sure that we are supporting our schools to administer those tests as we can, and as we continue to support our schools through this pandemic and through this school year as well. And so it is our intention to follow the intentions that the U.S. Department of Education has put out, that we administer those tests as we can this spring.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Representative Erdahl?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Keeler.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. I have a question, and I guess I'm not really sure. I think it might go to Denise. It was about the priorities when it comes to IT and digging into the IT piece a little bit. One of the things that we saw as a shift was we have more students who identify as 2 or more races when they are identifying themselves. And I used to work in Indian education, and I know that this really had a negative impact for our students. As many people know, the Native American population, we have Indian education, so we're one of the only races that gets funding based on how we identify ourselves. And so I know there's been a couple transitions that have been made. I just don't think it's still up to par when it comes to actually identifying our Indigenous population. And so you talked a little bit about that being one of the priorities. Can you just explain, or somebody from the team, please explain a little bit more in depth if it's going to include breaking down the 2 or more races? And then also, are we going to be talking and identifying their tribal nations and sovereign nations as well?
Sure. Deputy Commissioner or Commissioner Ricker, who would you like to take that? Commissioner Ricker. You're on mute, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right, check that off for the week. Sorry, Madam Chair. Representative Keeler, thank you so much for asking. So when you saw on that slide that is exactly what we are getting at. When it was explained to me that the federal count ended up suppressing the number of Native American students in our school communities because of the way they were characterized, if they had 2 or more races, or if they also checked a box that said Hispanic, that we wanted to make sure that that Minnesota's count was not suppressing students who checked more than one box, and that if you identified as American Indian in the state of Minnesota, we would make sure that you are counted. So earlier in the presentation, as you saw us talk about the Office of American Indian Education, we talked about there being over 26,000 American Indian students in our schools. That is Minnesota's count. And that is the commitment we've made in our numbering, in our data, that where the federal count is explicitly asked for, then we absolutely have to provide the federal count that's being asked for. In every other instance, we are going to make sure we use the Minnesota count, the accurate count, to make sure that every student who has identified as an American Indian student gets identified as an American Indian student.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have just 2 minutes left here. Representative Keeler, were you done with your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Scott, we'll let you close it out for us today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is for questions for the Commissioner. And I know what the previous administration, what their policy was on these tests, assessment tests, but I would want to know from the Commissioner if the new administration says that it's optional, would the Commissioner then be coming to the legislature to seek, because I understand that the MCAs are mandatory and only the legislature can say, no, they don't have to be taken. Would she be coming, or the department be coming to the legislature to see if the MCAs could be canceled again for this year? Thank you.
Commissioner Ricker.
Madam Chair, Representative Scott, thank you again for asking that question. We don't anticipate that a waiver is going to be offered again. And so the MCA tests do need to be administered. And that's what we have heard from the U.S. Department of Education. And so our intention is to fulfill that responsibility and administer the MCAs.
Representative Scott, any follow-up?
Nope, that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. That being all the time for questions today, and there being no further business before the committee, we will stand adjourned. See everyone on Wednesday.